Hello, everybody. My name is Lance Johnson, and this is another episode of Amplify Your Business. Today, I'm going to be talking to Alexis Hillyard from Stump Kitchen. Hi, Alexis. How's it going?
Hi, good. How are you?
Really good. Thanks a lot for joining us. Now, tell me a little bit about the start of Stump Kitchen. How did this come about, and what was the impetus for this business?
Totally. Well, it was a pure accident. So I became vegan after being vegetarian for a long time. I also had a diagnosed gluten intolerance. And so I was at a point in my life where I had to start cooking for myself a bit more.
Yeah.
Didn't really like cooking, didn't really do it too much, but I had to get into the kitchen. And I was born without my left hand. That comes into the story later. Um, and so I started with some really simple, easy recipes just to kind of get in there. And I realized, partway through the first few recipes that I was naturally using my arm, or my stump as I call it nowadays. I was using it as a tool. So as like a spatula and a juicer and a masher, just completely naturally. And I didn't even really I wasn't fully aware of that. And my partner was like, you cook really cool. You should show the world how you do this. It's wonderful. And I was like, yeah, oh, okay. And a couple other things came into play too. Like I had a YouTuber friend who was like, yeah, you should totally make a YouTube channel and, all these things. But long story short, I did film one episode, Waffles, my very first one, put it out there. Like I learned how to edit and everything. And it was like really bad. The sound was horrible. And but I put it out into the world and the world loved it. And so a few months later, I committed to making an episode a week, or roughly,
Yep.
and Stump Kitchen was born.
So
So that
cool. Yeah.
started.
Yeah. So now you're one of these YouTubers now, these YouTube businesses that are cranking out videos and getting views. I was just scrolling through just to see. Yeah. So the waffle one, your very first one, 9,600 views on that one, which is
Mhm.
absolutely fantastic. So now I'm curious, as I'm sure a lot of other people who are watching this are curious about, how do you make a business creating videos and posting them onto YouTube? We see this, we watch a lot of people all the time doing this, but a lot of us don't understand how this even happens.
Absolutely. And I think the key is knowing that there's a ton going on behind the scenes that you wouldn't see. Like you look at a YouTube channel and you think, okay, this person, like for me, I have just over 5,000 subscribers, which is incredible. But, for that amount of subscribers and the amount of views that I have, they're not astronomical. And so to make money purely off YouTube, I think I make about anywhere between 15 and $25 a month on YouTube.
Oh,
So that was
that's it. Yeah.
that's that's it. And that's with
Holy-
like all of my ad settings turned on. So that's my ad revenue. So that's like, a little bit of groceries and maybe a special coffee once in a while. Um, so obviously there's a ton more behind the scenes that I need to do to make a livable income for myself. Um, and so, I mean, like taking the leap and leaving my secure job and doing this, making YouTube a go of it, that alone was um, not too scary because I knew that Stump Kitchen was like my passion and what I needed to be doing.
yeah.
But once I was out there, I was like, okay, is this going to work? What's going to happen here? But some of the key things for me were, I jumped into making it a full-time thing and making a go of it 1 year after I started posting videos. So I didn't start from scratch. I didn't say, hey,
Right.
world, here I am, let's do this. I had a brand. I had 1 year of consistent uploads. I had a following. I had people that could like believe in what I do, trust in what I do, realize that like there was something here, something that they could enjoy and get some value out of, whether that's like vegan cooking, limb difference stuff, or just like a funny person who doesn't wear a bra and swears sometimes, like
Yeah.
there was some community like buy-in, I guess, like they liked it. And so that was a first key thing for me that I realized, starting once you kind of have something going for you, I guess. And then I Patreon for me has been the biggest support. So Patreon, for those of you that don't know, it's a platform where artists and creators can put their work out there and people can support you for $1 a month, $10 a month, $1,000 a month, whatever they want. And with enough patrons around the world, that can lead to, a pretty great little income. And for me, it's not my sole income. I mean, it's a great amount, but I still need to do other work to kind of, help myself create that income for sustainability.
Yep.
But
So
because I had that brand, oh, sorry, go ahead. You're
yeah,
going to
I,
say?
I was just going to ask on the Patreon front. So was that something that you started right at the beginning as well? As soon as you decided to do this full time, did you start the Patreon account, or did that come later on as well?
No, so yeah, so after a year of doing my channel, during that time I was working another job full time. And because I realized that all my energy was going to Stump Kitchen and I needed to follow that, otherwise my heart was going to turn black and shrivel up and die. I made the leap right away. And I knew that if I didn't go in 110%, that I would regret it later. So right at that year point, I left my job and I started Patreon almost immediately.
Okay.
I think I launched Patreon in like March or April, and I had left my job in like January or February. So it was like a very quick turnaround. Um, and then I made Patreon basically my full-time job. So I made the page, I made the content, I reached out to people. I did all of the tips and tricks that they recommend, but I also did a lot of relationship building with other creators, other people, other potential patrons, family, friends, strangers, everything. And I made that outreach a big part of my daily life. But the key thing here for me was like, at first I was like, how on earth am I going to ask the world to pay me to do this? Like, are you kidding me? Like, what? This isn't real. I can't do this. I felt so weird and kind of like sheepish. But then I got to a point where I had to say like, hey, like, if your heart told you that this is what you're meant to do with your life, and you know that there's something special here, and maybe you haven't fully unlocked it, but there's something telling you that this is what you're meant to do, then say that to people. Tell people why it's important. Tell people that it actually is something that is good and going to add more value to the world, and be funny and be lovely and provide, I don't know, beautiful representation for disability and limb difference, and add a playfulness into the kitchen. And so that alone really helped me have that like conviction. So when I was asking people to like, hey, would you consider joining me on this journey and becoming a patron? I wasn't like, hi, can you give me money? It was like,
Yeah, yeah.
hey, here's a community. If you want to join, it'd be great. It just really, really helps. So I think for me, and for anyone doing their own business stuff, like believe in what you do and like let it be important. Like
Yeah.
you can own it.
Yeah, and you have a purpose, right? With this,
Mhm.
it's beyond just cooking. It's not just about teaching people how to cook.
Mhm.
You're entertaining, but you also have a message that is woven throughout as well. And I think that really is powerful too, to attract those people who want to join that movement or join that tribe, so to speak, in terms of
Yeah.
this is a community that I want to belong to, and that. So I think that is also a key differentiator for you than somebody who is just, yeah, like, hey, I like making videos, I think I'm cute, can you give me money as a patron, right?
And I think that's also really valuable. I think like there's so many people out there who use Patreon and other forms of, platforms like that, who are doing different things, who are making videos just purely for the aesthetic, or um, you know, like different ways. Like it doesn't always need to be like this like deep meaningful thing. I think there's lots of value in lots of other art forms and stuff. I think it's about being authentic to your brand. I think if you're like, hey, I'm a commentary channel and I comment on, or like like a recipe reviewer or like a tech channel or whatever, if you're authentic and you're doing stuff and you're loving it and people are able to see that, I think that's what creates an audience that's going to stick around, as opposed to sometimes people are doing stuff purely for the views and the money. And that's when you're like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
So I think regardless of what you're creating, it's if you believe in yourself and you're true to your brand and you're authentic, then like that's a winning combo for creating a community that's going to love you and stick around. And even if they don't, you're going to love yourself because you're not selling yourself short, you're not selling out. And like I remember a couple of times in my career as a content creator, I did veer off path, and there would be a few weeks where I'd be like, oh, I'm not getting enough views or subscribers. And I would start to think about, content ideas or titles that would be really clickbaity, or I would started think of things that would be really good for the internet. And I would go down that path and start making a video and just be like, I didn't even get to the start making a video point. I just like got to the thinking stage, and it just felt so gross because it was so manufactured. And it would be great reminders for me to be like, stop, step back, and get back to your core and what you're all about. So that's, I think, another really key thing for people doing their own business or creating stuff in the world. Always stay true to your core, because
Yeah.
you feel icky otherwise, right?
Yeah, for sure. And now you've been at this for over 5 years now, right?
Yeah, I just had my 5th anniversary in March. So
Yeah. So now as a content creator, is it easier now because you have a rhythm and it just comes natural, or is it more difficult to create content on a weekly basis because it's like, okay, now what do I do? I've done all these 5 years
yeah.
worth of episodes.
No, it's a lot easier, because so my setup and stuff, I've got it down to, I mean, if I have all the ingredients in my house, I can set up my whole situation with
Yeah.
lighting, camera, whatever, probably in 20-25 minutes. And that used to take me well over an hour,
Mm.
just to do it, well, to like, once I learned that like lighting is important and sound is important, because at the beginning I was just like filming with my phone and my partner would hold it and it would be like, "Ugh." um yeah, I'm definitely in a flow. And then the ideas, they never stop coming, because as you're engaging with your audience and other creators, you realize there's just endless stuff to talk about, and also there's endless people to cook with. Like, pardon me, I hope that burp came across. There's endless people to talk to, cook with, get ideas from, and of course there's endless recipes. Like, there's always something new to make.
Yeah.
um and yeah, so it's, sometimes I do get a little like, a little stale for ideas, but in a few days they always kind of rejuvenate themselves. Like, I'll go for a walk, or I'll
Mm.
look online, or I'll talk to people. And I have a list of people that I want to hit up for interviews, or list of recipes that I want to try. And sometimes I'll wake up and be like, I'm doing this video today, and I'll just film that in that day. And of course, everything's different now that I have a baby. I have a 1-year-old, and it makes filming a little bit trickier, but I'm working around it.
Yeah, yeah, not quite as spontaneous, I'd imagine. A little bit more planning
A
goes into
little
it.
bit more planned, but it also means that sometimes Joven is in some of the videos, and so on my channel, there's, I think, at least one or two where she's in them, so
Yeah.
people can check them out.
Yeah. Do you have any concerns about that? Because I know a lot of people don't want to show their children in their channel.
Yeah,
So will
I
you be incorporating your
I
child
think
into
I
it?
think a little bit, like, my partner and I have talked a little bit about this, and I think I don't want to do it a lot, and I don't post a lot of pictures online either, like a little bit here and there. And I think the reason why I feel okay doing a little bit of that and a little bit of the videos, but not making it all about having Joven in them, because I think that can get tricky for the baby, like, just consent wise.
Yeah.
um I look at my community, and I look at my followers, and I look at my audience, and they are so incredible and so loving and so caring. Like, I have virtually no weird comments in my comments section.
Well, that's good.
Everyone is respectful and kind, and so that alone, I think, has allowed me to feel free to show a bit of Joven.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to be a regular thing at all.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So back to the business then. So like you
Mhm.
mentioned, you get a little bit of revenue from the YouTube channel ads.
Yeah, very
And
small amount.
yeah, and then it's a decent amount coming from Patreon. And
Yeah,
then you're also doing some other stuff too, I understand, right? So you're doing some training, some classes, you're
Mhm.
teaching and so on. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the other things that you do to kind of round out that income model, I guess?
Totally. So pretty soon after Stump Kitchen started, people started asking like, "Hey, do you teach cooking classes?" And I was like, um, "Yes, I do." So I made that a part of what I do right away, because it was such a great offshoot of my core values. And I'm an educator by trade. I have 2 education degrees.
Okay.
And so it just fit really perfectly into what I was already doing. So I do private classes, I do birthday parties, I do whole group workshops for, like, I did like Girl Guides, brownies, that kind of stuff, or like
Yep.
schools. Sometimes just for fun, but often for pay, for an income. I work on a sliding scale because I'm all about accessibility, making sure that people can afford it and have access to stuff that they want for their children and families.
Yep.
I also do speaking gigs for companies or groups if they want that kind of stuff.
Nice.
Um, and I teach for a local junior high. I teach their cooking class option, so that's been really fun too. And yeah, so it's neat to kind of like bring the energy of Stump Kitchen, the show, into the kitchen with the kids.
Yeah.
It's so much fun.
Yeah, it is kind of fun. So now one of the common thing, I mean, obviously throughout everything that you're doing is really focused around Stump Kitchen and the brand that you have there. Can you
Yeah,
speak to that, the intentionality of that, I guess?
totally. When I left my job and took the leap into making Stump Kitchen my full-time thing,
Hmm.
I said, people were like, "Oh, weren't you scared?" Blah blah blah. And I, yeah, I guess I was scared. I was mostly scared not to do it because I knew that's what I needed to do. But then a few months in, it was like, oh, am I like gonna pay the bills? And like I had a little bit of savings from when I left my job that probably would have lasted me 4 to 6 months.
Yeah.
So I had that window of that safety net window. And at about the 5 or 6 month mark, I was like, oh my gosh, should I just like I'm just gonna like get a part-time job. It's gonna help pay the bills, and then I can do my work. And I did. I did have a couple little part-time jobs here and there, completely unrelated to Stump Kitchen, to help keep me going as I was creating, doing my passion project. And I was like finding it was really draining me. And yes, it was paying the bills, but it was draining my energy, sucking my soul. And I just kind of woke up one day, and maybe I had a chat with my partner about it too, but I just realized that if I'm not focusing all of my energy and intention towards Stump Kitchen, where that's where it wants to go, I am, splitting focus, losing momentum, losing happiness, essentially. So it was at that point that I said to myself, okay, the only thing you're going to say yes to, um, job wise and income wise, is going to align with Stump Kitchen. And it's going to be a scary thing to do, but that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And so slowly, over probably about a 2 year process, I got to the point where the only non-Stump Kitchen thing I do right now for pay is actually, and it didn't start out as pay. It was all kind of volunteer at first, but now it is for pay. I teach a ukulele choir for an hour on Saturdays, which is like super random, super fun. And of course, right now it's all online, but
Yep.
so that's just a really small part-time job that I really enjoy. That's like just for me.
Yep.
But everything else is Stump Kitchen related. And it took some time, but I got there because
Yeah.
it makes work such a joy. Like I get up and I get to constantly be embodied and be, celebrating who I am, but also creating food with other cool people, talking about disability representation, talking about following your heart. And um yeah, it's a dream come true for sure.
Yeah, so I think a lot of entrepreneurs, when you're starting out in particular, there's all these different ideas, there's different ways that you can approach the business, the concept that you have, whether it's a product or a service. Um,
Yep.
and so it's really difficult, I think, to apply that really indistractable focus at times. And especially when, like you said, the fear kind of sets in where it's like, okay, am I going to be able to make the bills? And you have the self-doubt, and your partner or your family are all like, "Oh, what are you doing? Like you kind of left that that stable job and so on." So uh, I'd like to hear if you have any advice for people who are listening to this right now,
Mhm.
who are maybe at that point where they're like, "Okay, I have a passion. I started down this road." But I'm just really scared now, and I'm thinking that I might have to abandon this. What would you
Mm.
say to encourage them to maintain that focus and really persevere through it?
I think I definitely think that there's no one size fits all approach. I think that everyone's circumstance will be different,
Yeah.
but also no, I think that I too had it's kind of cyclical, I think, where you're kind of following this passion, and if it's a business or whatever, you start out and it's exciting, and then it gets really hard, and you might like not make any money, but then something else comes along and you're like, oh, this is a neat opportunity, but then it kind of backslides a little bit, and then you're like, oh, I'm going to start Patreon and get some patrons, and then oh, it's not really going to grow, but oh, maybe it is. Kind of like it's a constant up and down and up and down. And then the only thing that for me that really has stayed constant is coming back to my value and my worth in terms of what I'm doing, and believing in that and believing in myself. So I think that sounds super cheesy. I completely know, but it's
Mm.
honestly the only thing that has pushed me to continue and not abandoning this and being like, oh, I should just get a full-time teaching job, and there's good benefits and whatever, because honestly I'm not making a lot of money, and I Stump Kitchen stuff alone, it's definitely it's an income, and I'm doing it and stuff, but like it's we're really scraping by here, but I'm so happy, and it's like I don't need a lot of money. It's okay. So yeah, coming back to that core, and also being okay with having some setbacks and having some doubts,
Mm.
um, and but also being allowed to say, okay, I'm going to put this aside for a minute, do some other things, and letting yourself come back to it. Just because it might not work right away doesn't mean that it's not going to be fruitful or whatever. Just allowing yourself the space and time to let it be a journey, because it's like a little baby, a little fire you got to keep stoking. And um, but I strongly believe that if your heart is in it and you want it, then you deserve it, and you're going to put your energy there. And if your energy goes to it, somehow I feel like the world will provide, opportunities for that to happen. Like if your heart and energy is saying this is what, and that's where you're putting your intention, then somehow like things just work out. And that doesn't sound very concrete, I know, but
No, it's true though.
the
Manifestation,
feeling
right?
thing.
You
Yeah.
really, yeah, it's harnessing
And
that.
telling people about it, like, people will see that you have that belief and that that value in it, and they will just see that as infectious and be like, yeah, I want that too. Let's play,
Yeah.
so I think that. And then of course I did have some savings when I bumped over to
Yeah.
doing this full time, and so that kind of helped sustain me until I had a base on Patreon and stuff.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
yeah, just going for
Yeah.
it.
So now something pretty big has happened. Now, something I don't know if there's any other entrepreneur in the Edmonton area that can lay claim to this, but Google reached out to you and decided to do a profile on you and your business. So tell us a little bit about this. How did it happen, and what was that experience like?
Well, it was super surreal and really, really cool. And it all happened within this past year. Like I think they reached out in, I don't know, like maybe February or something. And then they came out in April, and we filmed in 2 days, two whirlwind quick days with the most strictest COVID protocols I've ever been a part of. Like it was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
So we all felt super safe, and it was it was a skeleton crew and stuff. Super early mornings and super late nights. And I they were working with a Canadian crew from Vancouver and from Toronto. So they flew in from both those cities. And
Wow.
then they were also working remotely with their California, their LA crew. So they're constantly on Google Meet talking to them while they were filming here in Edmonton. So that was really, really neat. And Google was yeah, they were literally like Googling creators. And they found me. I guess they just put in the right search terms for whatever, and they found Stump Kitchen, and they just said they really, really loved my work and just fell in love right away. And so we had a pre-interview to see if I would fit with this documentary style, and they said I did, and they were like, okay, we're going to fly out a crew, and live with you, basically. They didn't live with me, but they they
Yeah.
were here at a hotel.
Yeah.
And they wanted to pack it all in as much as possible to kind of get a nice slice of life for what Stump Kitchen is like. So in this documentary that they did, you do see essentially what Stump Kitchen is all about, like most of what I get to do. So online workshops, creating episodes with people, editing, chatting with people, and then of course my family life with my baby Joven and my partner Allison. So it was a beautiful experience. It was really, really cool. Google was so good to work with, like really, really awesome.
Okay. And so they filmed you, created this documentary. Is it live now? Has it been released
Oh
or?
yeah, it's been
Yeah.
live since June 4th.
Oh,
Uh,
wow. Okay.
yeah, so it's been out for what, a 10-day, couples, almost 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
And yeah, people are really liking it. It's been really, really fun.
So has it changed your business at all? I mean, it's only been 10 days, but has it driven
Right.
a spike in traffic over to your channel?
Yeah, I think like there's definitely been like here's the thing about like being on YouTube and stuff. Like people often think like when you get a news interview or when you get a big break like a documentary like this that it's going to change your life, and I know from experience that it won't. Like you might get a small little bump, and that's great. You might get one or two new followers, maybe one or two patrons, maybe not. Maybe another interview comes out of it, maybe not. But I've learned to have realistic expectations about this. So I didn't go into this thinking, oh my gosh, Google's going to do this documentary. Everything's going to be changed. I'm going to be a superstar and blah, blah, blah. Like, not that I would even want that because it would be too much to handle. But I kind of knew what the realistic outcome would be, which is a few more news interviews, podcast interviews, chats like this, more subscribers on YouTube. Like I think I've had maybe, I don't know, 70 or 80 new subscribers, which is wonderful. Nothing to, scoff at. um, I think one or two new patrons. And just some great comments, just lovely comments on old videos. So people are going back into my archives, just being like, hey, this is really cool. Found you from Google or whatever. So it's been a beautiful little bump that is for me, my favorite kind of growth, something that is sustainable and it's not too intense, because I still really appreciate being able to reply to almost every comment and to engage with almost every news request or whatever. I'm still at that size that I can do that, and I'd love to stay this way. So yeah, I think it's changed it in really small ways, but in really beautiful ways too.
Really cool. So I guess just a real quick rapid fire questions for you, because I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of people that are curious about YouTube, how to make that work. And so I'd love to
Yeah.
get into like dispelling some of the myths of being a YouTube channel
Okay. Ready.
content creator. Ready? Okay. So
Oh,
do you need a $5,000 piece of equipment like a camera and fancy setup to be a YouTuber?
no, God, no, 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 no. I barely have that. Like the first like 2, 3 years, it was an iPhone. And I didn't even get a tripod until my second year. So it was my partner like holding it for the longest time. And I would even edit at the library computers. I didn't even have a good laptop. So
Yeah.
absolutely not.
Do you have to have a background in editing then? You have to be a master editor to put together these videos?
No, I didn't know how to edit. I didn't even know what Final Cut Pro was. And I learned at the library. I learned from YouTube, like watching YouTube tutorials. And with a few basic tricks, you can edit a basic video almost in the same day that you film it. Like it's super, super quick. And I love talking about that stuff too, by the way. So absolutely not. You can even edit on your phone now. Like it's great.
Yeah, the tools are amazing now, aren't they? Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you have to have you be present in every social media channel out there? Are you a TikToker, Instagrammer, Twitter? Uh,
Oh God, no. That's a great question too. Like I'm really infrequent with my posts on social media. I think at first I was a bit more diligent, but now I'm a bit kind of like, I do have a TikTok, but it's not at all like I use it maybe once a year now. So I think you just for me, I just picked one and kind of stuck with it. So I'm really, really big on Instagram. That's where I have a really large following, my biggest following, actually. It's like almost 11,000 followers.
Nice.
So I picked one and I did that pretty well, I think. And then all the other ones are just kind of icing on the cake, and I just have fun with them, but I don't stress. So yeah, absolutely not.
Are brands knocking down your door looking to sponsor episodes and giving you free stuff?
Yes, now they are.
Yeah. Good.
At first, no. But just in the last year or two, yeah, especially in the last year, I've had my first few larger sponsorships. So I worked with ATB and I worked with London Drugs. And I have a couple others potentially for this summer, a couple other contracts that have approached me. And for me, I've made a decision not to do sponsored YouTube videos because I think for me, my videos are like purely mine. They're untouchable. I just want to do whatever I want to. I don't want to be like, this episode brought to you by. However, I will have sponsored IGTV videos,
Okay.
or Instagram posts or Twitter and Facebook, or those types of things. So that's why I have those channels. But the YouTube thing, that's kind of a nice thing that I get to just have all of my own. So, but you don't need those things. You don't need those things to be a YouTuber and to make money. They're only just now coming into my repertoire, which I'm so thankful for, because I'm like, if I can get a couple, even one or two
Yep.
brand sponsored things a year, great,
Yeah. Yeah. And have you thought about getting any brand sponsors for like some of the ingredients basically that you use? So a grocery store or a food provider of some sort.
Um, I have, of course, for sure. But the way that that's worked for me is I've got a really awesome local shop, Earth General Store.
Yeah.
That's where we buy, I think, like 90% of our groceries right now. And they are so incredible. They just like randomly out of the blue were like, do you want like 10% off for all of your like Stump Kitchen stuff? And I was like, sure, yes, please. So anytime I have a business expense, they
Yes.
always offer 10% off. And I talk about them willingly, like non-sponsored. I often talk about them in videos and posts just
Yeah.
because that's where I shop.
Yep.
So that relationship developed naturally, and I love that. So in a way, I guess I have that already.
Yeah. And it's no surprise that it developed that way for you, I think, because that's very much, again, true to your brand and just the way that you want to, I
Yeah.
think, run your business, run your channel, run your content. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's really cool.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Any parting words of advice for other people who might be interested in getting into YouTube as a content creator, or who are starting new businesses or are struggling in their businesses right now?
Do it. Like I get lots of questions around, YouTube, like, should I start it? Should I upload a video? Should I try it? Yes. And don't be perfect at it. Like don't wait for that perfect camera. Don't wait for that perfect time. Don't wait for that perfect,
Mhm.
script. Like just do it. Try by doing, get it out there. If it's something that your heart, it's tugging at your heart to do, go for it. I think that's also applies for business stuff. Like, you don't have to have a perfect office, a perfect time, a perfect budget, a perfect product. Like you can start out, when you're not quite ready and just see what happens. If that's again what your heart is wanting to do, just go for it and you'll find your way.
That's great advice. Excuse me. That's great advice, Alexis. Thank you
Thanks.
so much. I really appreciate you taking the time today. And for those who want to reach out to you, tell us, or I guess view your channel and so on, tell us where they can follow you or connect with you.
Absolutely. So yeah, youtube.com/Stump Kitchen. I'm on Instagram, stump_kitchen, or just Google Stump Kitchen, Twitter, Facebook. And you can email me, Alexis@stumpkitchen.com. So I'm everywhere.
Excellent. Thank you again. Really appreciate you taking the time today.
It was my pleasure.
Okay, everybody. So if you enjoyed this episode and you want to check out some of the past episodes, we have them all archived over on our website at amplimedia.com/ ep.57-Amplify, and that will get you access to everything that we've done up to date, as well as what we'll be pushing out in the future. So please go over, check it out. And if you know any other entrepreneurs who have a great story to tell and to share, then tell them to reach out to me, and the contact information is on that page as well. So thanks again, everybody. Stay safe and healthy.